Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of Cotton Bold. First up, we would like to really thank you for the amazing response that you have shared with us and also some of the feedback that we have got from our friends and family. So thank you so much for it.
So today we are talking about two things. First, what has transpired in IPL so far and some of the lesser known stories of cricketers in IPL. So without further ado, sit back and get cotton bold.
So Agransh, how has the experience been so far? Have you been enjoying IPL?
Oh yes, I've definitely been enjoying IPL, and it was such a needed dose of cricket because we hadn't been watching any cricket for the last 6 months, and the journey so far in IPL can actually be divided into two halves if you see, because in the first 10 days we were having some really close matches, we were having some tight finishes, high scoring matches, we even had two super over finishes within the first 10 days. But now, as the tournament has progressed and players have kind of gotten into a certain groove, you would see that the margin of difference between some strong teams, which have historically been like really strong teams, now the margin of difference has been only increasing. You would see teams winning by 50 runs, 60 runs, 45 runs, and even where the margin has been 15 or 18 runs, you would feel that the matches were pretty much over even before the result kind of came out. So that's what I feel about IPL. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I have started noticing that initially a few players were rusty, were not in the best touch. We saw with Virat Kohli what was happening. We saw like some of the players are getting into the groove now, Rohit Sharma a bit here and there. But I have started noticing that more consistent players are connecting more often now. Like except KL Rahul and Mayank Agarwal, who kind of initially flourished, I think majority of the good players did not really connect too well. So I'm sure like the teams are connecting well, the teams are gelling really well, and then they have started playing better in the second half of the IPL is what I've started feeling.
Yeah, of course, not playing cricket for 6 months kind of would have gotten to them. But yes, as you mentioned, the technically sound players are now getting into the groove. So typically bigger names or even names like Devdutt Padikkal and Prithvi Shaw and Shubman Gill, everyone is kind of pitching in, and they are scoring well for their team. So yeah, it's been a story of two different halves, but it's been an interesting one.
Another thing which I would actually want to mention is what has happened in the last 10 games. So just for our viewers, I just want to ensure that we are at game 20 of IPL at the moment, and we are speaking about the stats around it. So in case if the video gets rolled on later on, just don't hold it against us. So yeah, cool. So I think talking about the last 10 games of IPL, I think the fielding standards have improved so much. Like what, yesterday when I was watching the match for Delhi Capitals and then Shimron Hetmyer took such amazing catches. I think I noticed that in the first 10 games, quite a lot of catches were dropped. Like you wouldn't see people like Ravindra Jadeja dropping catches, and which is what we saw in the field, like a rare occasion. And now I think everyone's got, as we said, right, everyone's getting into the groove, and obviously every team is kind of catching more. So I think that is also the reason why we would see the difference between the good teams and not so good teams in the IPL so far. Earlier it felt like everyone can win. Yeah. Now I do know that I have got a few favorites. So yeah, that's what I'd say about the fielding standards. What do you think about it?
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned about fielding standards, because I feel that the lighting at both the stadiums in Dubai and Abu Dhabi is very different to how it is in Sharjah, because Sharjah has typical tall floodlights, and however in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai you have lights embedded in the periphery of the stadium, of the roof of the stadium. So players would have actually felt difficult catching the ball because they would have felt light coming onto their eyes, and we don't see generally players like Virat Kohli also dropping two sitters in one game. So but yes, that was maybe could be they were scratchy, they were rusty, they were still getting used to the hang of playing cricket after 6 months, different grounds, different settings. But as the tournament has progressed, you can see a significant improvement across all the facets of the game.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was very interesting for me to see that Virat Kohli was actually laughing after dropping the
Yeah.
catches, and he was a bit casual about things, which is great because otherwise he gets so furious and so much into the sport. So I think he's just like maybe evolving and just taking one step at a time and then enjoying his cricket more, I guess.
Yeah, maybe COVID lockdown has given people a lot more perspectives in lives, and they would be feeling that cricket is not the only thing around which their life is centered.
Another thing which I would like to kind of call about what has happened in the last, I mean, about this specific IPL is the number of venues that we are playing the games at. So, like in India, when we had the IPL, we were possibly playing in around what 8 or 10 odd
Eight or
stadiums.
ten, yeah, different stadiums at any
Yeah.
given point of time. Yeah.
And whereas here we just have got like three stadiums,
stadiums.
and I do see personally that the pitches are deteriorating than what it was initially. So maybe that is also the reason that the better teams are kind of coming up now in this latter half of the IPL, whereas initially every team was just out there and then was just able to beat any other team on their given day.
Yeah, I would say yes. Like you mentioned, the more wholesome teams. You would see teams like Mumbai or Delhi dominating this because all their bases are covered from top to bottom. And yes, it was kind of known that pitches in this part of the world, all Abu Dhabi or be it Sharjah or be it Dubai, they will get slow as the tournament would progress. Because in India, any stadium would host only 6 to 7 matches in one IPL seasons. But here, teams are playing close to around 18 to 20 matches uh, per stadium. So, of course, the tracks will deteriorate and bowling conditions will differ. And personally, I would think that this is kind of a paradise for bowlers because in India they just get tonged around all over the park in any stadium. But in this IPL, they are giving equal fight to batsmen.
So I was actually looking at some of the numbers and I noticed that spinners are actually doing quite well in this IPL, even though they haven't got necessarily all the wickets. What are your thoughts about it?
I definitely agree to that. And if you look at the stats, you would see that while the top wicket takers are the likes of Jofra Archer and Rabada and Bolt and Bumrah and Patterson, you would see the economy rates charts are being dominated by all the spinners. You would see Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar and Ashwin and Rashid Khan in the top four, top five names of economy rates. So yes, I think the miserly nature of spin bowlers till now has kind of helped fast bowlers to take those wickets, and especially Washington Sundar because he bowls in the first 5 or 6 over. He bowls in the power play overs generally, and he hasn't conceded a lot of runs, which has helped fast bowlers to take wickets for RCB, and I think pretty much is the similar story in rest of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. In fact, I do feel that spinners shouldn't necessarily be bowling in the first 6 overs because the ball moves a bit in the first 6 overs on these conditions. And I think some of the teams have changed their strategy. Like, for example, Krunal Pandya was bowling for Mumbai Indians in the first 6 overs, and now it's Bumrah who's back into the attack. Or even he came instead of Pattinson just because his strength is obviously there in the first six as well as in the death overs. So yeah, I've just seen that strategy. But if I have to ask you, what would your pick be of all the spinners, the great spinners that we have seen in this IPL?
I think I'm pleasantly surprised by Akshar Patel's performance because if you see Akshar Patel's performance and Washington Sundar, who is the other economical bowler in this IPL, you would feel that there's not much difference in the economy, but Akshar Patel has been economical as well as he's taking wickets. So he has taken 5 wickets in 5 matches, whereas Washington Sundar has taken only 1 wicket in 5 matches, even though his economy rate is somewhere around 4.8 or in that range. But Akshar Patel has been more economical, and at the same time, he's picking up wickets also. So, for someone who has had a career economy rate of more than 7 or 7.5, close to 8 runs prior to this IPL, I think coming back with these figures, especially in the Sharjah game, where he gave hardly any runs and he even took 2 wickets. So, he's been a pleasant surprise for me.
Yeah.
What about you, Akshay?
I think I would obviously say Rashid Khan, but I think like he's always been great. Like the one performance that I've been surprised with and I genuinely have liked is Ashwin. I think he has come back from the fact that he used to be a regular in the Indian T20 side. Then he became the captain of Kings 11 Punjab, and then he did not have a successful season. And then now he is in Delhi, one of the senior players in Delhi. controlling the game quite a bit. Took 2 wickets in the first match itself, and then got injured.
Yeah.
So it was really sad to see him go there. But I think he's come back, and yesterday I think he won man of the match. For I think one of the teams that Delhi were playing.
Yeah,
So
you don't want to mention what it was against Rajasthan Royals that he won the man of the match. But yeah, Ashwin, to like fair play to Ashwin, he's a champion cricketer. He has been around for many years, and he's someone who always evolves his game. Who's always in a process of being more innovative, trying new actions or new variety of carom ball or other sort of deliveries. So yes, it was good to see that Ashwin is back in the scheme of things as far as shorter formats of the game is concerned.
did you actually, on Ashwin, did you see when Ashwin was in the game against RCB and he was about to Mankad Finch? And then there was a tweet that kind of followed by that where Ashwin said that this is the final warning that I'm giving to anyone. And he had, looped in Ricky Ponting on the thread as well. So it was quite, fascinating for me to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a very interesting and surprising story for some of our viewers too.
So if we can refrain from probably using the word Mankad, because it's been in news for last 2 or 3 days, and no less than Mr. Sunil Gavaskar himself, he mentioned that you should not really conjugate the word Mankad with this kind of a dismissal, because Vinu Mankad, as a lot of our viewers would know, he was one of the legends of the game, probably one of India's first and one of the finest all-rounders that India ever produced. And to associate his name with this kind of a cheeky dismissal shows him in a bit of a negative light. So that's why Mr. Gavaskar said that this dismissal should be known as Brown, because because Bill Brown was the batsman who got out in this way. So he wants the name to be changed and not be associated with Mr. Vinu Mankad.
Yeah, it's interesting whether it should be in a negative light or a positive light, but I think I'm pretty sure for our viewers that's a great moment. Like, you got to know that now we're not going to be calling it Mankad anymore. We would be calling it Brown, which is kind of strange. But then, so Ashwin Brown Finch?
Ashwin Brown Finch. That would have been in a parallel universe somewhere. The headline is coming as Ashwin Brown.
Wow.
Butler.
Amazing. So we have talked quite a bit about how the IPL has been divided into 2 sections, and also about some of the great spinners that we have seen in this IPL. Do you think you would have any clear favorites of the title, or maybe even the top 4 for this IPL?
Top 4 as of now, while we are shooting this episode, I think they have to be like Delhi Capitals and Mumbai Indians.
For sure,
I surely see them in top 2. Now, who would end at position 1 and who would be at position 2? That could be debatable, or we'll get to know in another 2 weeks' time. But yeah, as of now, Delhi Capitals and Mumbai Indians are really top favorites. For number 3 and number 4, I would say for the rest of the 2 positions, there would be KKR, RCB, and SRH. These are 3 teams which I consider would be having a go at number 3 and number 4 spot for the playoffs. What about you?
I think same as you. I would want to see RCB there, because I think now as the pitches have become a bit more neutral towards bowlers and batsmen, I think RCB as a batting unit, at least for me personally, is one of the finest, and they should be able to chase any score down on these pitches where it's generally going to be around 160, 170 or maximum of 180, right? Like except Sharjah in certain cases. So I genuinely would want to see RCB there. So for me, it's like RCB, and as you said, right, like Delhi and Mumbai are definitely going to be there. So one between Sunrisers Hyderabad and KKR. So like I think these are the 5 teams where I would say that the competition really is.
Yeah, now we are already in the latter half of the tournament, and we can see how 2 teams, definitely Rajasthan Royals and Kings 11 Punjab, have kind of faltered after having good start to their tournament, and when everyone was expecting that they would be having a good run throughout the tournament, or at least they would be giving competition, but they've kind of faded off, but you never know. This is IPL, they can still turn around things, but it's difficult. You don't get to win 7 or 8 consecutive games in a row. So yeah, that's going to be our top favorites, top picks for
any favorite batsmen and bowlers so far?
I think out of all the batsmen that I have watched, I know the likes of KL Rahul and Mayank Agarwal and Virat Kohli, like these are always all big names, but one new name which has really impressed me the most is Devdutt Padikkal. I think already 350s in 5 games, and he was even part of one of the chases also. And even in the first game, he made his debut, and it didn't look like that he was playing his first ever game of IPL. So the way his tournament has progressed, and hopefully he would score a lot of runs for RCB in this season and in the following years. And what about you? Which batsman or bowler?
I would like to call, like, again, as you said, right, there are quite a lot of favorites, not necessarily one person, but someone who comes to my mind is Marcus Stoinis, because whenever he has played, he has ensured that Delhi has won the match. I thought he set the template for Delhi in the first game against Kings 11 Punjab, where they were clearly favourites, but he just came in and then scored, I think, 50 runs of 20 or 21 odd balls. And then I think, like, Kings 11 could not really complete the chase, and then it went into a super over or something like that, right? What do you think about Marcus Stoinis?
Yes, I mean, even in yesterday's game between Delhi Capitals and Rajasthan Royals, which took place in Sharjah, the top order of Delhi Capitals did not click. None of the 4 batsmen clicked, but Stoinis again gave them that kind of momentum, and he came and he struck a few sixes, on which later on Shimron Hetmeyer built upon. So yes, he's a very vital player for Delhi Capitals.
Any favorite bowlers?
I would say it's difficult to choose between Archer and Rabada, but I would still lean a bit more towards Rabada. A, because he's playing for Delhi Capitals, and B, he is.
I thought you never had any favorites in the IPL.
But and second, it would be, he's already taken 15 wickets in the tournament. I mean, just halfway into the tournament, he's already at 15 wickets. He has taken wickets, I think. He's building on some record of taking wickets in consecutive matches. So it's been 20 matches and he has taken a wicket in every game for Delhi. I think the record is 27 by I think Dwayne Bravo. But
27, oh wow.
Yeah, 27 matches. But hopefully Rabada catches up on that.
Perfect. For me, I think the bowler that I'd pick is definitely Rashid Khan. I mean, he's just so impressive with his googlies. Like, I don't think anyone can pick. And even the other day when Nicholas Pooran was in such a good form against Sunrisers, he was just waiting for Rashid Khan's over to get, for his over to get over, actually.
Yeah.
And then he was just defending a few balls, and then after that he just got a ball where he could cut, and then he just gave his wicket away there. So that's how I think he's very difficult to play, is what it seems like. And I think he's going to get even more lethal as the tournament kind of progresses.
Yes.
One thing which I was actually quite curious about is the number of openers that we have got. So, like, once IPL finishes, and I know it's too early to talk about IPL finishing at the moment, but even if you think about, like, once the tournament finishes and, BCCI decides on the playing 15 for the Australian T20 tournament, like, along with the tests and ODIs, like, we've got Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul, Shikhar Dhawan, Mayank Agarwal, who's been playing fantastically, Shubman Gill, Prithvi Shaw, and this new guy, Devdutt Padikkal as well. Like, I mean, he has performed so well domestically. He was one of the most prolific players in this season. Who are we going to take for the first 2 spots? And it's unfair on all of these guys.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a problem of plenty for BCCI, and like you rightly mentioned, it's going to be unfair on anybody who gets left out from this lineup, because they have been like such strong performances in this IPL. If we are considering IPL as the criteria for selection for the Australian series, but yes, it would be difficult to think of an opening order where Rohit Sharma is not there, and where KL Rahul, who is in such splendid form, if he's not there, so it's going to be a bit difficult for selectors to leave them out. But then again, we have got such Indian cricket right now is in such a good place that we have such a strong bench strength that maybe even if not for this tour, maybe let's say in subsequent tours, when we are not playing against really high strong teams like Australia or England, but we are playing against teams where we can afford to rest the likes of Rohit Sharma or KL Rahul. I think we have a pretty strong bench strength for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with the fact that someone really gets rested. I'm just more concerned about like what happens to an individual when they don't get match time. And these players like Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, they cannot be rested because they are genuinely so good. Like you can't like you can actually compete them. And I'm sorry I'm saying this. You can actually make them compete against the likes of KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma as well. Like even though they have got such great records, but these guys are just good enough. So I don't know. Like it's a problem of plenty, but sometimes I feel that how exactly can we give these players more game time and also like exposure to the audience? I know COVID, I have no idea when audience are going to be on the court, but on the stadiums, I'm sorry. And but then whenever that happens, like we do need to give these guys enough game time, but that's the problem. And I think that also kind of concludes our first section about like what has happened in IPL so far. I hope you enjoyed this section, and we will talk a bit more about like some of the emerging talents of this year's IPL and how exactly their stories have been so far. So stay tuned and watch the part 2 of the second episode of Cotton Bolt.